Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Today, my guest is Bas Wouterse, who spent over 20 years at the intersection of hardware, software, mixed reality, and AI. He's built VR solutions, AR systems for spinal surgeons in Orlando, won a Times Magazine Innovation Award, and received FDA approval for technology that is literally reducing the number of people who die on operating tables. And I could continue and continue. But when you sit down with Bas, he is nothing about titles or focused on career or achievement. He is all about people, even though he is one of the coolest and badass CTOs on this planet. He is all about humanity, people thirst, and what can we do better in this world. So we talk about people, about fear, about what we tell ourselves who we are, and why most of us are living inside a prison that we built ourselves. So this episode is full of, I would say, magic tricks because Baz loves magic. A quick route to the Amazon jungles where he found himself working when we still had DVDs in our homes, and also the operating rooms of the future. Why you don't need, also we touch base on the changes in the medical field, and why not everyone needs to be a unicorn. That's it. So this one is a warm, funny, wise episode with Bas. I hope you enjoy it, and let's dive in. And Bas is, I would say, the veteran of the Web Summit conference. So that's where we met. And it was really cool because the crew of the conference, they really nicely accepted into their circle and welcomed me, which I'm very grateful for. And it's always great every year to come back to Lisbon for the conference and to reconnect with all the crew and all the people. Real people, real stories, and real challenges that break the status quo. I'm your host, Zivile, and welcome to Perception Paradox. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Perception Paradox. My name is Zivile, I'm your host, and today I have Bas with me. Hi, Bas. Welcome.
Hi, Zivile. Good to see you again. We know each other for quite a few years, so it's funny to finally do a podcast together. Because I think we've been around the world a few times. I've met you all around the globe, especially in Denmark and in Lisbon, and it's good to see you again. It's like a reunion.
It is earlier than it usually is, so that's amazing. I love it. I just thought we haven't spoken for a long time, so we need to catch up now, sooner. So why not to do it on the podcast? And you've been working on pretty cool stuff. And usually when we hang out, it's like all the magic tricks, and then me trying to understand those magic tricks, and then later on we all get with the crowd to the tech part as well. So how have you been with your magic? And maybe you can remind the story. What role does magic play in your life?
It's very minor role, but it has become a very big role. Because the fun thing is I used to do a lot of magic tricks when I was younger. When I was 18 or 16, somewhere in between there, and I was doing magic tricks in bars to earn my beer. So I was actually going to bars just for fun, talking to people, having fun with people, telling jokes, and then, of course, doing a side gig of doing magic tricks. And I was doing card tricks quite well, actually. So I knew some local people. It's not called a magic circle in the Netherlands, but there's like a group of magicians who love to tell each other some fun magic tricks or some pranks even. I was doing magic tricks at a very young age to earn my beer. And then you have to become really good at doing magic tricks, because if you had a few beers when you're young, you tend to get drunk really fast. So I was pretty good at doing those magic tricks at a young age, playing tricks with people everywhere. Totally forgot about it for ages. I'll turn my mobile phone off. The sound is poking me for a few times. Sorry, and totally forgot about it. And I got invited by a very weird email from a certain Paddy from Ireland, and he sent me an email saying, "You want to come to Ireland to talk about CTO kind of stuff?" And I was being an interim CTO for a few companies at the moment, And that was now 10 years ago, I think. And I was at the age of 40 or something, so I totally forgot about my magic tricks. Got invited to come over to the event. It was called the 30T event. 30 CTOs from all across a globe being asked to come to Ireland to talk about innovational stuff and CTO kinds of stuff. And I thought, like, oh, it could be a fun gig. So I went over, and we had 2 days of talking about CTO kinds of stuff. What do you do as a CTO? What do you learn as a CTO? What's the current technology as a CTO? Blah, 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 all from the vision of the CTO. And we got invited to come to a local pub kind of thing where they had like a VIP section where all the CTOs went into the VIP section. And I didn't care about the CTO stuff that much because I knew the CTO sector quite well. So I just was very interested in like, so the event guys, hey, what do you guys actually do and how does that work? Events. And it ended up being the guys who were actually also running the Web Summit. So I didn't know that beforehand. I just, like, it was Paddy Cosgrave sending me an email saying, like, you want to come over? And I thought, like, it's going to be fun. So I just went over, talked to the other 29 CTOs. It was actually 27, I think. The others. And then in the evening, I thought, like, not bothered by the CTO. So I went over to the Web Summit people. And one of them, it was actually the CTO from Web Summit, Vinny Glennon. And I think you know Vinny.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Vinny.
Vinny, hi, Vinny. And Vinny was doing coin tricks. So he was all kinds of coin tricks. And I told him, like, I can't do any coin tricks, but I'm really good at card tricks. Does anybody here happen to have a deck of cards? So that's how I got back into doing card tricks and got back into doing magic tricks again. And then I reached out to an old buddy of mine, Ronnie. Ronnie had a magic shop just outside of Amsterdam. It's like a 15-minute drive outside of Amsterdam. And I contacted him again. I said, like, Ronnie, long time no speak. I'm so sorry, but I need to get back into this magic stuff again. And that's how I got back into the magic tricks. And now I have I always have like 5 or 6 magic tricks somewhere in my pockets doing fun stuff. And I'm really sorry I didn't prepare for today, so I don't have any magic tricks. I
Unbelievable.
But normally, if we're somewhere, you know me, then I like to do the close-up magic, because if you do it on camera or whatever, it just never really works. If you do it up close,
Okay,
it really works.
that's gonna happen during some in-person event. No worries, we're gonna do something about that. But that's exactly how we met. I think it was some kind of It was Web Summit to begin with. Then it was an official gathering before we all were moving to Opurista. It was some kind of different bar. I think Sam texted me, come over here. We're hanging out with some guys. And then the first thing you did, you pulled out the cards. I was like, okay, cool, sure. In a bar in the middle of the night. Amazing. Let's go. But anyway, that's...
It's always serendipity. It's really good fun. You know Nancy as well, right?
Yeah, of course. Hi, Nancy.
Of course. Hi, Nancy. You know how I met Nancy?
Magic tricks.
Yeah, but on a really weird evening. It happens every year. There's somebody in there that you happen to meet out of serendipity. And Nancy was actually a speaker's guest. I was one of the speakers at Web Summit, and Cam, which I knew for a couple of years, said, like, can I ask Nancy to be your speaker's guest, because I think you don't have a speaker's guest for this year. Is that correct? I said, yeah, sure. Just make Nancy a speaker guest. Just give her this link and she can register as a speaker's guest and she'll be fine. Okay. She registered as a speaker's guest, and I was doing magic tricks for, I think it was Dr. Oz or something. Dr. Oz was there and in Lisbon. It was a really weird evening. I was doing magic tricks for Dr. Oz. And then somebody walked in. I said, like, they told me that you're really good at doing magic. And I said, yeah, sure, whatever you want to see. Like, want me to do something with, like, I don't know, with your birth date or whatever. And I was doing a card trick for her. Like, and then I saw what her label said. It was like Nancy. I was like, Nancy, are you my speaker guest? And she looked at my label and said, Bas, are you my speaker? That's how Nancy and I met in the middle of nowhere.
Oh my God.
It's at the end of the world, sitting on top of, sitting next to each other, apart from each other. So it's really good fun. Yeah. Magic tricks bring a lot of like light in my life, but just pure by accident.
That's amazing. I call it serendipity, and I think that's a really cool and unique thing to make yourself also memorable and to create a connection and bond. But besides the magic, Bas, which I think we could continue, and I think it's a very unique and incredible trained skill you have, and it's so much fun. You always have a story, and I'm still gonna guess it right. You're not gonna fool me next time. Anyway, you spent many years wearing CTO hat, and you're a pretty badass CTO, as we can hear already.
Thank you.
And what I find fascinating, you're welcome. What I find fascinating that you've been building technology that really changes the humanity in a way, right? That the way what humans can see, can feel, can experience, and it's so much from my perspective impact oriented. So how did you get into overall such type of technology and engineering in general?
I started out in technology when I was, I think, 12. And my father used to work at a local post office company, gig back then, where you could buy a computer for cheap. So I think the government paid for like 60 or 70% of the price. You could buy a computer was insanely expensive at those moments. I'm talking about 1986, 1988, something like that. And you could buy a computer for like, if I had to translate it into euros, it's probably 5,000 or 6,000 euros. It was pretty expensive, but the government paid for, I think, 2/3. So a computer would be then like 2,000 euros if you buy it. And we had a computer in the living room, and my father thought you can learn some computer stuff, but also you can play some games on it. That's like enjoy yourself. That was a whole gig. And the first thing I thought, like, what can you do with this computer? This is fun. And I started developing some basic, literally basic code. And my neighbor had a car reparation company, and so they repaired cars. And they had a lot of issues with like getting a good overview of what needed to be prepared on a car and what the prices would be. And at the age of, I think, 13 or 14 maybe, I started developing some software for him. Like, this is fun, just as something to work on. Because I think that's one of the problems that you have as a developer. If you start out developing, you don't know what you need to develop. And by accident, my neighbor was there and just said, like, I need this because I have an issue with getting a clear overview of what the prices are for my customers, that I started developing some software for him, which ended up being the start of much more. It's me being interested about how to solve problems. We had a group when I was 30, I think, approximately. We had a group of 4 friends, which we were doing wonderful work for very large companies, but we were not fulfilled. So we were working for companies like KPN, Vodafone, Orange, even large banks like the ING, ABN AMRO, large companies, and we had a shitload of work to do. We were making nice money, but at the end of the day, we still went, I'm missing something in my life. So what we started to do in the evenings is actually see what kind of fun projects we actually could start, which would slightly improve the world if you looked at it from a far view. So we would look at like, could we do something with drones to see if we can find people underneath an avalanche? That, like, if you try to find people underneath an avalanche, it takes a shitload of time. But if you take drones, they fly 50 to 60 miles an hour. And if you reverse a Stinger, and Stinger is an old machine that you could find radar, for instance. But if you reverse them, you can find E-mine numbers. And E-mine numbers are the codes that are on your mobile phone. So we could find mobile phones, and everybody's on their mobile phone, of course. So if you're on an avalanche, have your mobile phone on you. That's all you need to do. And we know there's an avalanche warning somewhere over there. We can just send out drones, and the drones will find you within seconds, basically, because they can pinpoint and they can move a lot faster. So that's one of the things that we just thought of, and thought like, oh, that's awesome. Let's see if we can build that. And we could build like an MVP, and all of a sudden we found out it's way too big for us. So now our model is we help large companies with innovation, and more of a think tank. So we help them with their ideas to start to create an MVP, and from that MVP they can create their own product on large scale afterwards. So that's how we do it right now. And now we're, for instance, helping still spinal surgeons in Orlando, and those spinal surgeons actually have AR glasses. We're now working with the Apple versions of the AR glasses, the Pros, and the Vision Pros. And we try to improve their processes, but not on a large scale, but on a small scale. So I need to explain this properly. The World Health Organization, you probably know them from COVID. So during COVID, the World Health Organization got known a lot better. But actually, their best work was done, I think, 15 years ago, where they made a short list of questions. And it was like 20 questions, simple questions. Those questions are like, what's your name? What surgery are you here for? What is the medication you're allergic for? Is it your left leg or your right leg? Those simple questions. Is this your last name? Is this your social identity number? Simple questions. And it reduced the people who died on the operation table by 30 or 40%. It's a huge decrease with such simple questions. So the surgeon actually came in and said, like, we want to do like, we want to do so much stuff with the AR stuff. And I thought, like, okay. And he said, like, I want to see the veins running through the arteries. I want to see all the arteries when I do the spinal surgery stuff. And I thought, like, this is not probably the way to go. Let's start simple. So what's the simple start is actually prepping the operation room, and after the operation, see if everything is already recovered from the patient. So the thing that we did is actually create an AR solution, which was helpful for the assistant to prep the operation room, and after the operation, see if all the objects were out of the patient. By the way, if a surgeon leaves something in a patient, it's called the patient retained an object. I love that. Like the patient said, like, this is my object now. This is mine now. No. Then and what we do with the AR glasses, for instance, we do a shitload more. But one of the simple things to actually visualize what we actually do is the assistant walks in with the glasses into an operation room, and we tagged the operation room so the glasses know where the operation room is. The assistant walks in, knows which patient is coming, which operation it is, and he knows visually, because we make a 3D render of where all the objects need to go. We visualize where all the objects need to be laid out. And everything is orange once he walks in. And then he puts, like, for instance, a table at the right place, and the table turns green. And then all the objects on the table turn orange. And then you can see, there's scissors that needs to be here. There's clamps that need to be here. And once all the clamps and stuff and all the objects in the room are on the right place, the whole room turns green. And then we know that all the objects for the surgeon are in the right place. What happens then is that the surgeon comes in, knows where he needs to go, has all his stuff in the right place for the operation, can do his cutting, whatever, his clamming, whatever. He can do everything he needs to do with not being a problem by the assistant. Because the problem was, sometimes the assistant would forget a clamp, for instance. Okay, it's shitty that he forgot a clamp. That's number one. He forgot a clamp. Very shitty. But the surgeon is there, and now he has to stand there like an idiot for 15 minutes with his hands up, because an assistant needs to get that extra clamp. Then anesthetics guy needs to add anesthetics for 15 minutes, and the surgeon is still there, standing there like, oh, you fucking morons. Pardon my French. You forgot that clamp. But now a whole lot of stuff happens, and then the surgery takes 15 to 20 minutes longer. Then the next patient has an issue, and then they have to rush through the next patient. So the whole team gets degraded by those simple steps. And that's what we're trying to fix overall.
Wow, that's insane. Have you tried it yourself in the operation room?
I've tried it myself, and I'm not a fan.
That's what I was about to ask, because that's kind of weird. Like, you're wearing something and you're coming into a kind of completely different world, and you're kind of in a, sounds like in a game.
The preparing of the room, I don't mind. The cleaning of the room, I don't mind. But the actual operation and the cutting stuff, I'm not a fan. My wife doesn't mind, but I'm not a fan.
Okay. It's okay. You can stick to your engineering part. But
Exactly.
then,
That's
but
more my
it seems like you, yeah, but it seems like you wanted to solve so many problems. So you ended up creating the system that works for you guys, right? To work with MVPs and tackling the hardest part of the problem, and once you kind of nail it, giving it for the rest of the guys to develop and scale, and then go back to a square zero. Is that something where you found the joy and fulfillment?
Yeah, absolutely. I really love making MVPs. Is really my gig. So I love helping out companies who I try to run into companies, figure out what their problems are, and try to figure out their main problems, and then solving it with some simple MVPs. And to be honest, if it has a little bit of hardware in it, I love it more. So if it has drones, if it has glasses, if it has whatever technology in it, I like it more than only the software.
Why is that? Why do you think is that?
It's boys with their toys, probably.
So you need some kind of more like physical integration into the problem you're solving, and that you can measure it more like hands-on in a way, so you can feel it.
Yeah, it has to have some sensors or whatever. It doesn't matter which kind of hardware it is. And I love that crossover between hardware and software. If it's only software, it's okay. It's nice. It gets my interest. But if it has hardware in it, then it really just I can wake up earlier when it has hardware in it, and I can work longer when it has hardware in it for some reason.
And do you have some kind of particular field of interest, or you're just guys curious human beings, and as long as it's a big problem to solve or challenging, you go for it?
Question. I think there's two interests that I'm really on about. If it makes the world a little bit better, I love it. The why is always a good question. The why is, why do you do the things you do? It's a really good question. Once again, making the world a little bit better, cool, or teaching other people a trade. So that's also why I'm on stages, for instance. I try to help people, and I try to make it funny, because otherwise it doesn't stick. Those are the things that wake me up earlier in the day, that keep me up at night. Let's make the world a little bit better. And if everybody does that, then it works out for everybody. So just a tiny bit. Doesn't need to be a big bit. If you do a big bit, awesome, no problem. If you do a tiny bit, you're already done. It's and if you have like 1,000 people listening to your talk, awesome, wonderful. But if you only help one, perfect. Just help one. If there's one person in your public, that you talk to, but you can help that one person, perfect. So that's basically what I love to do. So helping people a little bit. That's why we're here on this planet. Don't want to sound very negative, but we're only here for about 100 years. So let's make something positive out of it.
In most of every day. And how did your role has evolved and your work with having now such an advanced technological race and speed, actually eliminating lots of unnecessary tasks and operations from our lives and work environments.
It's the working with people that's still the most important part. So yes, AI is getting better and better, and we have tools now and we can create agents that do stuff for us. 9 out of 10 times it's the repetitive stuff that nobody else wants to do. So one of the first things we used AI for was actually talking to voicemails. So one of the banks in the Netherlands to create a system that actually says, we tried to call you, Mr. Blah, blah, blah. Please call us back on number XYZ. And it was a simple AI tool that did that repetitive stuff. But now the people are actually working there can actually help solve the financial issues better instead of doing that repetitive task for over and over and over again of talking to the voicemail, talking to a person, just doing useless stuff. Useless. It's not useless, but it feels useless. And I think that the human interaction will become more and more important because people tend to get fed up with AI kind of answers. So I also see that at service desks. So if you call a service desk, you get an auto answering machine. And you have to dial in 3 for department X or whatever. It sucks. You want to really talk to a human person. And I think we'll see a turn in the upcoming few months or even years that people will start to become more important for the tasks that are human interactive based. So if you want to really talk to a human, you want to talk human to human. You want to do if we want to clean the house, we don't like to clean the house. If some AI or some robots are cleaning the house, fine. That's fine. But if somebody comes here at the door and tells me a good story, that story is way more important to me if it's a person than it's an AI. An AI story is not a real story. And a real story is still going to be a really good story. So it's I think the human interaction will become more and more important over the next coming years. And it's going to be more intensive, especially after we're returning now from years of COVID. So a lot of kids actually didn't have a really good interaction with people because they were just sitting at home, laying at home, just having interactions like this, like screen to screen, and not having real interactions, giving a hug, sharing a drink, eating some food together. Those are the social interactions that are going to be missed by humans in the next coming years. And I think we'll find a way back. Well, we'll find a way back on the important parts that humans will need to talk to humans more.
Hopefully. I am pretty sure we might find. And talking about the interactions and going back a bit to your builder's hat, when do you know that you have to call it quit or you have to pivot your phase of development? Because sometimes we get stuck so much into our ideas and we fall in love more with an idea rather than the problem, and that we start being kind of blind that maybe that's already just an illusion and it's not going to work. So do you have any experiences when maybe you stick too long, or how do you measure the process?
Yeah, for me that's very simple. Just create a roadmap, and if you can't stick to it, it's not important enough.
Here we go. Bam. And when do you know when you have to pivot?
I did it with a few things that we worked on, and but to be honest, on the other hand, that's also the reason why we give some MVPs to large companies. So for me, it's quite easy because I create a roadmap for about a year, or maybe even shorter, maybe a half a year, and that's the project needs to be done within that year or a half a year. But if it takes longer, it doesn't matter that much if you see that the roadmap is still on track in those steps, but your roadmap is deviated because you came across some extra stuff that you need to work on, or there's some extra rules and regulations that you need to fix, or there's hardware that's not available yet. We're working on a project now that has that's awesome, but the hardware is not available yet. So now I'll explain it to you in a few minutes. But okay, so we were working on that, and then you find out, oh shit, the roadmap now needs to shift, but it's on hold. So the hardware will be there in a half a year. Okay, then we need to check. Okay, we had that roadmap. The roadmap's changed now because of new perspective, but still the roadmap. But if you can't manage that roadmap because you're or not interested enough, or everybody deviates from it. So what we do is actually we have projects that's with 4 different people, and then the other projects with 4 other people. So you shift from project to project, and then you hire a couple of people, like 3D artists for some companies, or some projects we need to hire 3D companies, 3D designers. So for the AR stuff from the spinal surgery, we need to hire people to do that. And then you see like, the work's not on time because we're moving from A to B. So we have milestone A, milestone B, milestone C. Milestone D never got covered. Why did milestone D never got covered? And then you have to do that little bit of self-reflection on milestone D never got covered because it's actually or not possible, too expensive, or we're not interested anymore. The whole project's not that interesting anymore. And those are the 3 things that you normally see what happens. So technically not feasible, too expensive, or the interest has gone. Those are the 3 main reasons why you diverse from a project. But in general, it is, if you're not following the roadmap anymore, just see why you're not following the roadmap anymore. And then you figure out, okay, I'm not following the roadmap anymore because of A, B, C, or whatever. And that's the reason why the project's not feasible anymore.
Words of wisdom. So talking about the roadmap, we go to many events, and you've seen so many different startups, communities, entrepreneurs, and ecosystems, right? Have you noticed any patterns that in the startup scene we are still stuck, or maybe repeats by itself? It can be something we should get rid of, or maybe some good patterns, or some like when you come back to conferences and you're like, oh, this is good, or oh, this should change?
Yeah, that's a really hard question for me because I'm lucky enough to be on the other side of the spectrum at events. So I see a lot of startups struggle. It's weird because a lot of startups actually get there by staying on track and really figuring out what their problem is, which they want to solve. I talk to a lot of startups, and 9 out of 10 times they just say like, "Oh, fun advice, but I'll do my own thing." Those are the ones that are actually winning in the end, because I have a clear idea. Why don't you do this and this? And if you want to move your startup, like if you want to go from A to B, this is the shortest route. Why you don't want to do the shortest route? I want to really solve the problem. And the startups that actually really want to solve the problem tend to actually, and that's shitty, but they tend to become the ones that are making the biggest impact. So hang in there, but it's also annoying because the other startups that really hung in there never made it, but really hung in there and now are losing their houses and they're in so if I give them a plan from A to B, it will work and it will feed their family and they'll have a very happy life, but they will never become billionaires. And if they stick to it and just really do the grind and really follow their own idea, they have 2 options. They can become billionaires or they can lose everything. Yeah, sometimes that's a shitty situation to be in because I see them struggle and I really try to help them. You don't need to become a billionaire in life. That's not what you want to do. If I'm going to be honest, do you want to be a billionaire? Nobody cares that you're a billionaire. Nobody asks you to become a billionaire. Just to be happy. You're here on this planet for 100 years. So what I try to see and help startups with, and I see that happen quite a lot, is those startups try to become the biggest impact in the world. Maybe you don't need to be the biggest impact. Just make a dent. If you make a dent, you're doing great. You're doing better like 99% of the rest of the world. And that's something maybe that needs to change in the startup scene. Maybe every startup wants to become a unicorn, and maybe they don't need to be. Maybe that's the summary of all the startups in the world. Like, I'm gonna be the next unicorn. Okay, great. Now what? Maybe you just need to become the next, like, lovely horse. Become a white horse. Whatever.
Well, what made you, Bas, choose the way you are running the company? Your kind of own way, not chasing for those different ecosystem titles. And as you've just mentioned, maybe not everyone needs to go for the $1 billion, to become the unicorn and to scale one company.
I told this to my kids as well. My kids are 23, 19 right now, so they're getting old. Every 5 years, you reinvent yourself. So every 5 years, you look back at the last 5 years and you go like, now I know how life works. Now I really know how life works. And then 5 years later, you go like, I didn't know shit like 5 years ago.
Exactly.
I was a child 5 years ago. What the fuck? And then another 5 year passes, and you go like, now I know how life works. And that's a repeating mechanism in your life. One of the repeating mechanisms in my life was I made a shitload of money and was never happy. And that's how I started to do stuff for myself. And I think John Cleese was the guy who said that. I actually met John Cleese, but that's a story for another time probably.
Okay.
I think John Cleese said it best, that if you know what you want to be, then you're destined to become that. And that's your burden. And if you don't know what you want to be, then you never know what you're going to be. And that's perfect, because then you can always shift into another role and become whatever you want every time you want to become that other role. So you can shapeshift. So the burden is there if you know what you actually want to be. And I never knew what I wanted to be, and I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And and I think that's the reason why I do what I do today.
I love it. But look, like, Bas, how do you navigate that uncertainty? I feel like nowadays, especially with the younger generation, we see this huge world just opened up. We had this new trend now going the portfolio career, but then we still have a pressure to perform better than the previous generation or parent generation. And, always that like uncertainty. Am I behind? Am I on time? How did you navigate your choices?
It's a really good question again. I think uncertainty is a very big part of life that we need to embrace. So we think it's like an evil, but it's not an evil. It's actually something good. So I don't know. You don't know if you're going to be alive tomorrow. So no, if no certainty, you're probably going to step into a plane tomorrow, whatever. And it's even out of your control, whatever is going to happen tomorrow. So I think you just need to embrace the uncertainty and just go for it. You have nothing to lose. There's one certainty in life that we have, is we're not coming out of this alive.
That's correct.
Exactly.
Is there... Oh my goodness. Yeah. So since you've collected now, accumulated different hats and lots of wisdom, what do you like to share on stage? Because you keep coming back to the conferences very often. You are the regular at Web Summit, and people come to learn from you on one of the talks how to navigate the huge conference, and then also beyond that, lots of about technology. What do you like to share the most with people and communities around you?
For me, I try to stick unto what I know the best. So I tend to end up telling them technology, but in a manner that they understand how it works. So for instance, I have a talk on AI and how AI works without making it really complicated, without diving into the technology specifically, just telling them what the main things are in AI and how that works on a very basic level, and tell them it, in a funny, engaging way as much as possible, so that everybody understands what AI basically is, where it comes from, and that it's not a scary thing. The main reason being that technology always starts out as being like a very, how do you call it, a very scary thing. And if you know more about it, it's not that scary anymore. So I used to fly a lot, but I used to be very scared of flying. So I thought like, oh, flying is like very scary. But I learned from books how airplanes work. And because I know now how airplanes work, I'm not that scared about flying anymore. So, and then I see you can relate.
I'm laughing because once I was flying on one of my longer flights, there was a huge turbulence. I ended up meeting a pilot who was flying to the same destination, and we just started talking. And then I told him like I don't feel comfortable with the turbulence, and then he gave me this whole engineering lecture, what are the probabilities and what happens and how does it react. So since then I cannot remember all the details, but I just like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, we're good.
So that's
We're
why I'm
good.
laughing. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it works, and that's normally the talks I give on stage. So for instance, AI, people are very scared about AI and stuff, and now we're ordering our pizzas with it. So, and and the reason being is, if we understand it a bit, then that's quite simple to understand how that works. And if you know how it works, it's not that scary anymore. So that's one of the
Yeah,
talks that I give on stage.
that's pretty cool. What would be one thing you built and you're the most proud of to nowadays?
I think still the spinal surgical solution. We received the Times Magazine Award of Best Innovation. Yeah, awesome.
That's amazing. Again, congrats.
Yeah, thanks. It's wonderful. It doesn't earn any money extra though, but
At least it's cool.
It's like getting flowers. You go, like, oh, it's nice, but yeah, but, yeah. Those innovational things that we got our FDA approval right now, so that's awesome. But that those are the things I'm really proud of, and then reducing the amount of people who die in an operation room. I think that's one of the things to aim for.
That's wonderful. And what would be one thing, or not one thing, what would be the things that you had to unlearn during your career that got you to the point you are right now with your work and knowledge and discipline and the structure you're mentioning?
That's good. Listen to authority. I think that's one of the biggest things you have to unlearn. Listen to authority. Sometimes you have to that's a really hard one.
But in what way? Is like listen like blindly, or
Yeah.
what side of it?
There's a company I worked for in Brazil, which I really loved. The Brazilians are idiots. They're wonderful. So I had as a reference, I had a bunch of operators in Brazil who actually happened to help me. And we're working at that time with the CD and DVD company. Doesn't exist anymore, of course. The CDs and DVDs are out of phase. But at that moment, we were working there, and it was like 20 Portuguese guys, 20 Brazilians sitting in that room. And I basically told them, like, we're going to open the door, and once you walk out, we're going to all go to the left. Everybody said, yeah. Then I asked them, because I thought that I'm probably not going to do that. Guys, if I open the door, what are you going to do? And they said, like, we're all going to go to the left. And I thought, like, awesome. So I opened the door. They went everywhere except left. It's not literally what happened, but that's about the idea of what happened. And I think that's a good thing, because you have to find your own way. If you don't find your own way, maybe I think that's a really good analogy. If you're not working on your own dreams, you're probably working on somebody else's.
Yep. I mean, there's always start working on your own. All right. So what kind of values and compass are you giving to your kids? They are already adults. Or what kind of upbringing you navigated? Because there are two ways to do that. One way you try to fulfill your childhood dreams on the kids project. There is the second way you give ultimate freedom, and there is the third one you try to balance a bit of a structure but leave the freedom to choose. And perhaps there are fourth and fifth way.
I'll show you a picture of my daughter when she was 12.
All right. That's correct. The motorcycles. I remember I met your daughter last year, actually.
Exactly.
She's a badass.
She
Like
is a
her
bad.
dad.
Yeah. But I taught her like to basically enjoy life, but just do your own thing. If you want to do something, just start doing it. So we built this, when she was 12, we built this treehouse
It's a
together.
treehouse. Yeah, that's so cool.
Next time you're in the neighborhood, just stay with us in the treehouse.
Yeah. Oh, that's where I'm going to stay. Amazing. I love it. Say no
Awesome.
more. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I'm trying to teach my kids is don't be restricted in your thinking, I think. So your own mind can be a prison, and try to break free of that prison if possible. Because you're only restricted by your own thoughts. And we're only the people that we tell we are. So we're only the stories that we tell each other. So I am this person, and that puts you into a box. I'm this. I'm this. Are you? Are you really? This is just your own thoughts. You can escape your own thoughts. You're not restricted to your own thoughts. I'm Bas. I'm a CTO. Are you? Are you really? Is that what you are? Okay. Is that your limit?
So how do you introduce yourself? How do you
Sorry?
introduce yourself? How do you introduce yourself when people ask you, so who is Bas?
And normally I just go like, I'm Bas, and then if they ask, well, what do you do? And then I'll answer with, I love my wife, and I love to teach my kids how to become better people, and it has nothing to do with work. And a lot of people, if you ask them, what do you do? They'll go boom into work, especially the US guys. They go like, this is what I am. I sell real estate. Like, okay. You sell real estate. Good fucking luck. Yeah, it's like, I think.
It's like, it's part of our identity, and society wants us to have into the boxes, categories that is more familiar. I always have this thing with, so where do you live? And I'm like, I'm here now. That's where I live right now. I'm here.
Exactly. It has nothing to do with where you exist or exactly.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, 100%. I want to bring out, if we still have time, one story. So you mentioned Brazil, and for me, that sounds that's been quite a bit of few years ago, let's say. How did you end up in Brazil?
I ended up in Brazil completely by accident. I used to work for a fiber optic company in the Netherlands. I still help them out actually today on other projects. And I got hired by somebody else who worked in that company. And he got hired by an old friend of his who actually got hired by the Brazilian company. That was just pure accident. And the hardware guys were Singulus, and those are DVD and CD companies in Frankfurt in Germany. And at that moment, the hardware guys, and I think that's still the case, the best hardware guys are Germans, and the best software guys were Dutch guys. And they work really well together. So the Germans and the Dutch guys really work together really well. And that's how we accidentally got hired to do this project, to work on German hardware with Dutch software engineers. And they just wanted to have Dutch software engineers. I still today don't know why, but it's they thought it was. It's like the epiphany of that. A lot of people think that the U.S. makes the best product. It's in your brain, and for some reason the Brazilians had the idea the Dutch guys are way best at creating software, and that's how we got hired. That's how I flew into Manaus. Manaus is in the middle of the Amazon, in the middle of nowhere. There's no roads leading there at that moment. There was only one road going from Venezuela to Manaus. And for the rest of everything was flown in. So yeah, it was a weird time. Just being in the Amazon, in the jungle, basically, and there's just a few companies over there, and for the rest, there's nothing.
Unbelievable. So, and how long did you spend there and what did you do?
I spent there, I think, a total of 10 months over a period of 3 years. And I developed, it's called a manufacturing engineering system or something, MES, a manufacturing enterprise system. And what we did is actually, the management was in Sao Paulo, and they didn't want to go to Manaus to see how they were producing in Manaus. And in Manaus, the production guys didn't want to show the people in Sao Paulo that they were producing very shitty results. So my task was to automate as much as possible and connect all the cables as much as possible to automate the information so that Sao Paulo knew what was actually being done in Manaus. And I have a really good example of that. They didn't want to share that information. It takes 24 hours from door to door to go from here, where I am right now, to Manaus. So you take a taxi, your car, you go to Schiphol Airport. From Schiphol Airport, you fly for 12 hours to go to Sao Paulo. Then you wait for 4 hours. Then you get to another plane that takes you to 4 hours of flight to go to Manaus. Then from Manaus, you go from the airport to your hotel. That's just an extra hour or so. So that whole journey takes 24 hours. Also, if you go the other way around. So I was just done with connecting all the CD and DVD machines in Manaus. Tested everything. We tested for all the connectivity. It was working fine. Awesome. Yeah, this is working fine. I'm going to leave it as it is. Called Sao Paulo. Do you see all the information? Perfect. Called the Netherlands. Do you see all the information? Perfect. Got on a plane. Flew to Sao Paulo from Manaus. Waited there for 4 hours. Got on a plane for 12 hours. Go to Schiphol Airport. Got out of the plane of Schiphol. My phone blew up. Shitload of SMS text messages stating like nothing's working, we don't see the information, it's shitty, almost things like you're an asshole, you didn't do this correct. And I was just going, oh fuck, I just left and everything worked, right? I just couldn't think of any problem that actually, because the servers were running, the sub-machines were running, the data collection seemed to be running. I thought, like, the routers are running. We measured all the cables. There were new cables in there. Like, what the hell's going on? So I only had one option. Was actually take the next plane back to Sao Paulo. From Sao Paulo, wait another 4 hours to get my plane to Manaus. And I was in Manaus another 24 hours later. So it took me 48 hours to get back to where I started from. Only to figure out that those assholes, pardon my French, those assholes disconnected the cables, put some paper in it, and then reconnected the cables again, so that nobody would figure out that what their production data was. So I just flew for 48 hours just to figure out, like, I know what you're doing, but this is not helping. It's just like, paper out, click in, and it worked like a charm. So yeah. That's it was a wonderful experience. It's a new experience.
Amazing. And then so I just want to close up that experience. So how did you feel when that happened and how did you navigate? Because immediate response is frustration and anger. But and that was a long time ago. So and you were like a bit younger. So how did you react actually?
I was angry for about 30 minutes. And then when I had like the fourth machine where I took the paper out, I just started giggling. And I just started to talk to the okay, this is maybe because it's that hierarchy is very important in Manaus, in Brazil, basically. So I'm from the Netherlands, hierarchy doesn't mean a thing. So if you're my manager and you're doing a shitty job, as an employee, I could go to my manager and say, manager, you're doing a shitty job, stop doing your shitty job. In Manaus, that's not the case. You say yes, sir, no, sir, and then you do your job. There's 3 types of main employees in the company that I work with. There's the people who just wear their own clothes. They're the managers. There's the people who wear white jackets, white overalls, basically, and those are the managers on the floor. So the managers on the floor report to the managers. So the managers on the floor report to the guys in their own jackets. And then there's the operators. They're wearing blue overalls or blue jackets. So they're really recognizable. And the operators didn't want to talk to me at all. So if they're wearing blue jackets, they're going like, he's the manager. I'm so sorry. I'm just doing my work. Awesome. Trying the best I can. But I see that you're a manager. I tip my hat to you, sir. Please talk to my manager. He knows everything about me, but I'm trying to be as helpful as possible. But you didn't get the actual answer. After those 48 hours of flying, I got back and I stayed for another week. And the first day, of course, I was mad, I was happy, I was laughing, I was sad, it was everything, to be honest, because I wanted to actually go to my own family, to be honest. But the third day, I talked to another Dutch guy who also worked there, and he said, like, if you really want to talk to the operators, you have to become one of them. Just try to become an operator. So I started wearing a blue overall, and it's that simple. And then they started to talk to me, and that's how I got the final answers that I said, like, yeah, I don't want to lose my job, but I just didn't want to. Sometimes the machines are broken, and if the machines are broken, I don't want to have them in Sao Paulo know that the machine is broken because oh, some cats are fighting. Sorry, and but cat fight. But,
it's all right.
It's fine. If the machine's broken, I don't want to tell it to the people in Sao Paulo because they'll start asking questions, and it's difficult for me to answer them. Blah blah blah. And then that's how we got the actual answers to the reason why they disconnected all those machines. So sometimes you just have to integrate to become a better connector, to connect with the management.
That's so interesting, and I think a very great learning experience as well, when we sometimes forget about the cultural differences and that we make decisions in very different way depending on the environment we grew up in. So talking about the environments, if you had to start over like today or tomorrow with nothing, forgetting all the achievements, what would be this one maybe insights or life compass direction that you would carry with you and you think would help you out?
Good question. What don't I have anymore? Don't I have my work anymore, or don't I have my family anymore?
You just start over, you just start over, perhaps maybe from work perspective and the business perspective, because that's where we usually are here, right? Always dealing with uncertainty in entrepreneurship, with constant change and FOMO and everything.
Exactly, because there's a big difference. If I don't have my work and my family anymore, I wouldn't care. I just would do anything and just make some money and I'll be fine. But if I still have my family and I don't have my work anymore, I would try to figure out as soon as possible how to get as much cash as possible to make it possible for my family to have a normal living. Because that's something else you want to do is as a father, you want to, and that's a weird thing to do. You want to make the life of your spouse and your kids as comfortable as possible with the most friction as possible, so they learn how to make their own lives as comfortable as possible. And if I wouldn't have a job now anymore, I would try to figure out AI really quickly to make that makes the biggest money on the short term, to be honest.
Here we
It's
go.
not on the long term.
Okay.
You're not going to be happy with it, but it's going to make money quickly.
And then you can do the rest when you have
Then you can
the
figure out the
tool
rest.
to play with, and you can figure out, yeah.
I call money. I call money the lubricant of life. If you don't have, there's a saying in the Netherlands. I don't know if it's in the U.S. as well. I think it's in the U.S. Yeah. It's in English as well. Money does not buy you happiness, but I think the reverse is correct. So no money ensures you'll be unhappy. So if you don't have any money, there's a large probability. It's not certainty, but if you don't have any money, there's a large probability you won't be happy. So you have to have an X amount of money to be happy in life. And it doesn't have to be much. You just have to have the basics. You have to buy the food, have a shelter. So the basics for that, it's very important. So yes, money does not buy you happiness, but no money will probably ensure that you're not making the best out of your life. So yeah.
Okay, so we would find you in the AI, full-on AI acceleration. I have Bas, I think we could continue and go different directions. But as we already maybe indirectly agreed that we need to do that live with a bit of a magic tricks as well, to understand the subconscious mind and how do we perceive the environment when we're being tricked. Nevertheless, I have this tradition in the podcast to leave listeners with a thought to ponder, maybe something you would like them to take away and to think through the day. What would be your final thought that you want us to leave today's conversation?
We had a good saying earlier on. I don't remember what it was. Can you still remember? We talked about it 15 minutes ago. It felt profound.
As profound that you forgot. Great.
So profound, I forgot it. Oh, shit. I sometimes say stuff and I can't remember anymore what I said.
But it happens to me too, unfortunately. I don't know, like just something, what would you like the audience and all the entrepreneurs and people from maybe looking for this northern star and trying to get their things together in a way when it comes to entrepreneurial journey?
It's not only entrepreneurial, it's also a life-based
A life
thing.
journey.
So we're always trying to chase something, but don't forget where you are right now. So there's also a story I need to tell you, but there's also
Okay, let's go.
there's two stories. Okay. So if you climb a mountain and then you look from that view that you are, and then you see like, oh, this is a spectacle, awesome, amazing. And then you see another mountain in the distance, and then you ask your neighbor like, how we can go to that mountain over there? Is that a long journey? I got probably 2 days. Awesome. How can we go there? Do we need to go by car, or do we need to I don't know, hike up or whatever? Do we need to buy a helicopter or rent a helicopter or whatever? 9 out of 10 people do this. If they're on a mountain, they'll ask about the other mountain that they see. Stop looking at the other mountain. Enjoy the mountain that you're on.
Ooh, very, very deep. Amazing. I have another one about the mountains, actually.
Right.
I was about to jump in and say, like, did you steal my story? Which I've got inspired from Naval Ravikant. So also with the mountains, so imagine that like we keep climbing during our life the mountain and we see the peak. We're trying to get to the peak, but we should enjoy the destination. But then the moment we want to change something, right? So that means that we will have to go down the mountain and to embrace the next peak. And many people are afraid of that step back in a way, which is, I don't think that is a step back in life. People are not willing to go down and start over with a climb to the peak. So that's, I think, a bit from different angles and perspectives, like enjoying the current, what we have, but also having the courage to take that leap and to understand that you have to do the sacrifices as well. If you want to shift something or to change, you have to get into discomfort. So
Yeah.
I find that wraps up the recent 15 minutes we've been discussing. But wait, you said you have two stories. So that was one about the mountain and the peak and enjoying the peak you are right now, not just always looking for something else.
Yeah, the second story is actually about relationships. I think there's a few phases in relationships. My wife's just walking past me, by the way, work all the time.
Hello, wife.
Well, she's just gone. She's just around the corner. Just missed her. One of the first phases in a relationship is that you're probably gonna defend yourself in a relationship. So if somebody asks, why didn't you do the dishes? And then you're gonna tell them why you didn't do the dishes. And you're gonna tell them like, I didn't do the dishes because I did this and this and this. And you need to figure out how to have the same targets. And that's really good fun at relationships, but it's also work related. So it's work related, but it's also private related. So if your colleagues want to go from A to B, maybe you also want to go from A to B. And because and it's also for relationships. If your wife says, I want to have the dishes done, and maybe it's your highest priority that the dishes are done. And if you make it your own priority, then it's much more easier. It's so simple. Everything starts to become so simple. So if that's also colleague related. So if your colleagues want to go from A to B, once again, and you think like, oh, if they want to go from A to B, awesome. Let's all go from A to B. Then it makes the journey a lot easier instead of going from I want to go to C, you idiots, and then embrace the people that are around you and which you care and respect their opinion. And that's maybe a good way to go. So don't struggle with it. Don't push it away. Just embrace it maybe a little bit more. Makes life a lot easier.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it, whole co-creation. And one thing that I've learned today about you, I think all the stories you were sharing, personal or work related, they always had people around. You were never it didn't sound that you went alone and chose those fights like a warrior by yourself, but it seems like you've been always people oriented, and you figured out early that alone in a war you're not a warrior, so you need a team.
Exactly.
I don't know what made you to understand that early, but that's a very celebrative thing and skill to have, I think.
I don't mean to sound sad, but when you're alive, you're never alone. You only die alone. So when you're still alive, just don't be alone.
There we go. I think it's a very great way to end today's conversation, Bas. Thank you so much for finding time. It's so great to see you all shiny in the summer vibe and doing good things, always bringing this calm wisdom and humor. What would be the best way for people to follow your journey or maybe to reach out if they have any questions?
My LinkedIn is probably the easiest. I reply to it every PM.
Wonderful. So we're going to leave your LinkedIn link in the show notes. Thanks again, Bas. Enjoy the rest of the summer, and thank you everyone who tuned in today. See you next week.